Welcome to That Moto Show with DirtBikeTV's Jay Clark and producer Donnie Bales.
Welcome to That Moto Show, number 3. Kind of like Tomac, right? All right. This is a tech-focused podcast, and we take your questions. So if you'd like to have your question answered, you just email me. And you can go to our contact and our links on our link tree or from our website, and you just email us. And that's the easiest way. I don't make you wait for the show. I'll usually email you back with an answer, and then we can bring those questions into here because other people will have those same questions. That's kind of what we've learned. So if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, we'll try to explain things that we're showing in photos as best we can. But on YouTube, you can see everything that we do, of course. So, Donnie. We've done 2 episodes so far. The response has been really good. I haven't had any hate, other than we did have a few little technical problems the second round, but we've got those ironed out. So tell me what you got going on.
Well, listen, first, I'm excited to be here. Actually, really excited to have Spencer here because I'm basically not that great at doing like 10 things at once. So having Spencer here does help, and he's super technically knowledgeable, so that's really helpful. So I'm happy about that.
So we're going to have a technical you're going to have a co-producer for like 3 months or so.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually call him the executive producer, so I can just be the like lower guy. It's totally fine with me as long as Spencer goes it.
I'm with it.
Yeah. Oh, so before we get going, I actually have a present for Spencer. Really, you and Spencer, but mainly for Spencer.
Okay, what'd you get?
Here we go.
Okay, so I was vacationing, and I did find some of these amazing water bottles that Spencer uses.
Nice.
For fuel.
Yes.
These are smaller though.
These are smaller,
these are
but
nice.
They're grand.
They're a little more expensive.
They're a little bit branded, aren't they?
They are branded.
Were these in the hotel room?
These were in the hotel room.
How much were these?
They're
complimentary.
They were complimentary.
Okay.
So it does say Grand Wailea on them.
This would be at least $10 at like a cheaper resort, but you go to the nice resorts.
I shouldn't say where I go, but I do. My wife does like Comfort. But anyways, I thought about you guys immediately.
Those are perfect, and then people will stop complaining that we're using plastic to carry our fuel.
Well, these are reusable.
Yes.
So the first time I saw these,
are they aluminum?
When we went on that Utah ride, and Spencer pulled these out with gas, and I'm like, man, these things are awesome. Where do you get them? And you got them locally
at a gas station. Yeah.
So then when I'm on vacation and I see these, I'm like, oh man, I got to bring these back. And then it makes me look super bougie because it says Grand Wailea on it.
So the bars just turn the opposite direction on your bike by themselves right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, people are going to be wondering about the little, what little ugly dog turned the bars on that bike.
Yeah, I have a pug. She is amazing, and Jay thinks she's ugly, but I don't.
Well, no, and I do. I always say that you guys are going to get a fast ticket into heaven because you guys took care of pugs.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I had 3, and I have 1 left. Poor thing's by herself. But yeah.
Okay, so we're glad to have Spencer here, and thanks for the presents. That's awesome. We will use it. We'll put them in our Moto backpack that we take to the trail riding.
I actually have 2 more for you. I just brought out these 2.
Nice. Okay. All right. So everybody's ready, excited. Supercross. When this show goes up, you'll be watching Supercross tonight. For those, and if you are watching this or listening to this after Supercross, hopefully it's been awesome. I can't see as how it's not going to be awesome. I would think, right, Donnie?
Yeah, I'm so excited for Supercross for that one person to return. I'm really happy about that, and I'm happy about to see what this kid does.
Well, unfortunately, he's not racing until East Coast.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still excited about Supercross is running. But I'm still excited about this.
Yeah, no, it should be really cool. I'm always looking forward to the beginning of the season, and it should be great. I am worried about a little bit of a run by Jet, but so we want to hopefully he can get some bad starts a little bit, just a tiny bit, and make it fun and interesting. And I think it should be awesome. So
I actually entered. GL called me the other day
for a pool.
Yeah, they have a fantasy Supercross, and I'd never done it before. So he's like, "Hey, you want in?" I'm like, "Sure." So I'm gambling on it this year.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's get right to it. We people don't come to hear us talk about silly stuff like this. They can hear that on other places. So we just want to answer your tech questions. Spencer's going to start us off with our first one, and we'll get going.
All right, first one comes from a YouTube comment from D, saying, power washing is not necessary. This is one of the common maintenance mistakes. Water and moisture get into all kinds of pockets on the motorcycle, the wire harness, electrical connections, bearings, etc. You power wash the motorcycle, the water penetrates everywhere, and then you park the motorcycle for a period of time in a dark, unventilated place. A sure recipe for corrosion, rust, etc. unless you did something stupid and drove in a salty area like the beach. It's better to park a dirty and dry motorcycle than a clean and wet one.
Okay, so at first, like Spencer and Donnie were like, man, this sounds crazy. But there is some truth to what he's saying, is that power washing is hard on bikes. There's no way around it. So over the years, we have found bikes that have never really been washed, and things are a lot better. But the downsides are cases are stained. That's hard to get off because the dirt will stick to the bottom of your cases. It stains that, the swing arm, the aluminum parts, it'll be stained. The other problem is you can't adequately work on your bike. You can't change your oil or inspect your clutch or bleed your brakes or anything with a dirty bike. That part's really difficult. Now, if you're riding, like say, I talked about guys who are riding, say, from their house, and they're just riding in mainly dusty conditions, not very muddy, not a lot of water crossings. It probably is better just to put it away and not wash it. You still need to do your prep work, and there are a few times where we don't wash after every ride, but we wash after most every ride. But if we don't wash, we will still go through and do a checklist of prepping things, checking the chain, oiling the chain, doing a lot of those things. So the power washing, what's difficult about power washing is it gets in there to those bearings and to those electronics, especially on newer bikes. And so the key to, we have videos showing how we power wash bikes and wash bikes. There's a key. If we don't have time to be adequately, or stopping at a car wash, for instance, and we can't adequately have compressed air to blow the bikes off and to blow in there, we won't typically do it. We'll wait. So it's important to do your bike, your washing, and think of it as prepping for the next ride at the same time. That's how you have to look at it.
Carl Kramer, old dirt rider guy, forever, he never, ever power washed a bike.
Yeah.
Never. And he'd complain to me about when I'm like, oh no, dude, I need this.
Well, and there is a nice thing. There's also, when you're power washing a bike, we lay it on both sides. We have videos showing that we lay it on both sides. We're power washing it. We are looking, and now also we're riding, I don't want to say at maybe a higher level than some other guys, but when you're riding extreme off-road conditions or a lot of motocross, things are going to break, bolts are going to be missing, things like that. You're seeing wear items. So when you're washing that bike, I notice things right away, and we make a list right away of the things that we notice when we're washing that are wrong with the bike. So those things you're not going to catch if you're not washing your bike. Pretty simple. So
there's another factor too, and that is how often do you change over bikes?
Right. And so we don't have bikes for 15 years, kind of thing. So we're having them short. The other thing is a nice little trick is removing your seat after washing or during washing, and you can block off your air filter. If you can remove your seat and even tank, sometimes you can be blowing off all your electronics. That is better on the bikes to blow all that off and blow those, the steering stem, linkage. We blow off all these key areas, and all of our electronics, we're blowing all that off after we're done washing. So it's a good question. There is some truth to that. I think some people would think that's kind of crazy, but it definitely is going to help reduce some of those corrosion problems. All right.
Awesome.
Got our next one for us?
Yeah. So this comes from ASAP Huna, and they ask, what's been y'all's favorite bike ever owned? Could also be picked just from sentimental value too. So it doesn't have to be the best performance.
Okay,
but the favorite best.
So the favorite best right now is our 350 XCFs, and Donnie has one, and I have one, and we like the SXF, but the XCF 350 with just an ECU, and unfortunately you have to do forks if you have a pre-24. If you get a 24, it comes with spring forks. That bike is probably my favorite overall bike because you just do simple little mods. It's amazing, and you can use it on the track or trail, and so I think that's probably the best overall bike. I don't get too attached to bikes because I go through them pretty regularly, so I don't get too attached to like one that was way better from the 90s or whatever. I had a 77 RM80 that I think would be kind of sentimental. If I found one of those that was really cool, I might consider fixing one up, but I'd probably lose interest. So I don't get too attached to bikes, just to the current one and maybe to people.
Oh, nice. So Ali M says, hi Jay, so appreciative of you passing along your vast knowledge.
How about that?
I have a question and thought it might also be a good one for that moto show. I know you have shown us that you drain it, but why KTM says to don't open the drain bolts of the case to drain out the old oil in the case. So she's talking about
that extra one. We'll show a picture of that here, but on the bottom, on the KTM, there's quite a few, oil. You got a little filter on the side, not the main filter, but you got a little screen. So you pull that off. You also have the drain that's either coming from the side or on a 450 or out the back on a 250 or 350. And then at the bottom of the engine, it's an Allen or a Torx 45. It's one of those two that fits, and it's just a little tiny plug. You're gonna when you pull that out, you can get 150 cc's of oil. So it's a substantial amount of oil that comes out. Now that area is the crank area, and I think KTM is paranoid that people are gonna let that drain out. And maybe the bike sits a long time. There's no oil in there. I think they're concerned about there being oil at the crank. I think that's their big concern. If you put oil, and now you can add 150 more than you normally would, if you're doing your filter. So in most of these bikes, we're putting 1250 in these bikes as well. So that's a quart and a quarter to help those out. When we do an air filter, an oil filter and that drain at the bottom, we put in quite a bit. So that helps a ton. So for us, that much oil, that's 10% of the oil, let's say, that contaminates that fresh oil right away and is already going to start to turn black. I'd rather have all fresh oil. And when you start the bike for the first time, you might prime it a little bit, and definitely don't be ripping that throttle right away. Start it, let it idle for 15-20 seconds before you give it any blips.
So
next one, what do we got?
AG Squires.
Oh, yeah, he asked a few questions. But he got some good ones. We read some of his last time. He took the effort to send us a few more, so we're going to answer them straight away.
So he's doing a good job with this. So he said, the first question says, I had issues with my Honda 450R fork seals. They lasted about 31 hours before they started leaking, and leaking fairly decently. I tried all the tricks, couldn't get them to stop leaking, so I'll be taking it to my suspension guy for a refresh. My question, are stock seals fine, or should I try and go with SKF if they make them for my model? Wondering if they're better at keeping dirt and debris out. Do you have experience advice on how to get more hours out of fork seals?
Okay, so first thing,
that's a long one.
Yeah, that's a long one, but it's a good one because fork seals suck. When you go out and you're ready to go ride and it's blown. Now, so I'll go back. Let's go back to our bike washing one. If you're not washing your bike, this can happen more often. So if we don't wash a bike, we spray some W40 on the fork tubes and wipe them down. And so we get all the dirt off, because as soon as they get a cut in that seal, if they get a cut in there, the seals are done. So that's the first thing I would do, is keep your bike clean all the time. As far as the Band-Aid fixes of putting a wipe in there, it's tough. There's no really, once they start leaking, I very rarely have been able to fix them easily. There's no quick magic easy fix, unfortunately, for fork seals. So he asked about I wrote my buddy Dave Schmidt at Schmidt Suspension Performance, and he has some insights. He said that all the stock seals aren't as good as they used to be. He's noticing a quality difference, and we've seen that on a lot of things, not just seals. He's saying there's a quality difference. He does say the SKF, or hey, sponsor, what was that other one he mentioned? CSR?
So yeah, CSR blue seals. They're blue.
So blue seals, and the SKF green ones?
Green ones are SKF.
So those two, he said, were the best quality seals that he's had. And we honestly, knock on wood, don't have a ton of fork seal problems because we are washing our bikes straight away, not letting mud and dirt dry up on there. That's a big culprit of why you can get fork seals. Now, if you go ride in a mud race or something in muddy conditions, you have no choice but to keep riding, right? But we aren't usually in those kind of conditions a lot.
Or you're trapped in mud and you have to get out. I have experience with this, as you guys have probably seen on Instagram from a while back, but yeah.
For sure. All right, so what do we got next?
Anonymous asks, I guess Anonymous.
That's his name, his handle.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of
a
cool handle, right?
Would you rather attend a SoCal Supercross race, A1 or A2, or a SoCal motocross race? Which over the years have you found more fun, all things considered, racing, atmosphere, etc.? And as a bonus, which venue track is the best for viewing?
Okay, so all that said, I prefer to go to neither.
Listen, I've got don't tell that to fans because they're going to be upset.
So I would say I'm jaded, but I've gone to a lot of races over the years, and about 15 years ago I just stopped. Now the only race that as far as the Supercrosses, I much prefer to watch them on TV, and I don't got drunk guys yelling, "Hey, Weiss, go Jay!" And so that, and you can see the races better. It's just better. But I enjoy football, for instance, and I don't go to football games for the same reason. I like watching them on TV for the most part. So same kind of thing. I'm just that grumpy old guy who just prefers to watch it at home. As far as nationals go, I preferred when the national was at Glen Helen, and I would go to Glen Helen and watch a national, even on my own dime and everything, if the nationals were at Glen Helen. So
I've been to a lot of races,
right?
Like a lot of almost every motocross race. I mean, Kensworthy and Binghamton, everything, and Honestly, Glen Helen is probably one of the best I've ever seen for spectating.
And he asked about spectating, and I'm not going to be SoCal, but I will say you've been to Redbud.
Yeah, I've been to
Redbud and Washougal.
Millville's really good to watch.
Millville. Those are some of the better ones to get around, but you can see like some of the Southwick's a great track, but you can't see a ton of it.
You can see almost all of Millville except for the sand whoops. So if you can see the rest of the track, you can't see the sand whoops.
So I like those tracks. I would, if it wasn't so difficult and far away, I would probably go to one of those.
You make fun of me, but you know what? I actually liked going and seeing the bikes for the first race. I do get excited about seeing all the trick stuff there. I always get excited about seeing the bikes.
Donnie's gonna have some photos for me to post from A1.
Yeah.
So, All right, what else we got next, Spencer, from AG?
So, that was AG's second question.
Oh, okay.
That was AG's second question. But Derek Breyer asks, "Hey Jay, I got a question about cleaning air filters with gas or kerosene. What are your thoughts on this? I've seen a few guys that use these, but I've always stuck to the Maxima cleaner. Also, I was curious about the Honda overflow fuel line. If you could send me that part number, that would be awesome. Thank you."
Okay, so first of all, that Honda fuel line, overflow fuel line, is got those cool, so it's like a clear pink hose, overflow hose, and we have that part number, and we'll put it on the screen right now. And for those, and if you're listening to this and you can't see the screen, you go to our Google Drive doc, and you go to our Google Doc, and that doc is in our link tree, or you can go to our website and you can click right to it. In that doc is the part number, so that answers that. So you can just order it right from your Honda dealer. If you call your Honda dealer, they probably won't be able to find it for you, so it's easier just to get that part number and you can plug it in and order it from however you're going to get your Honda parts. As far as washing filters, we have some good videos on this that show this, and yes, we will typically use a solvent or a gas or a fuel to rough out the filter just quickly. And we use the Uni 2-stage filters, so usually we just dip it in there and just get the big dirt off in that one, and then use like your cleaner, either the Uni cleaner or that Maxima like you mentioned. We'll use those cleaners to then use the hot soapy water with that cleaner to wash off the rest, and then of course we blow them off and let them sit out in the sun, that whole thing, and make sure they're perfectly clean before we reuse them. Or we use a service called MX Filter Service in Southern California here. If you send them a few filters at a time, it's pretty cheap. It's a pretty good value, so we will do that sometimes as well if we don't want to get our hands dirty.
I use J. Clark Filter Service.
All right.
Matt L. Hey Jay, I have approximately 35 hours on my 23 KTM 350 SXF. Last time I rode, it felt like the clutch wasn't engaging well. How do I tell if my clutch is slipping? Do you have a video that explains how to tell or test?
We've done a couple little YouTube videos talking about this, but one of the when I read that question, the first thing I think of is that the hydraulic brake fluid in the master has not been bled. It's just old fluid, and at that amount of time, I'm going to assure you it's black. And most people do not flush out their brake fluid nearly enough. You should do it at least once a year, if not twice. And on the clutch fluid, it could be, you could almost do it quarterly. It depends on how often you're riding, but it really does get heated up, and it's a very small system. If you look at how big your master is, there's not a lot of fluid in there. So between that and the cable, that's all the fluid that's in there. It gets overheated, and so that's your biggest problem is there. You can then, but then what I would do that first. If you're still experiencing some issues, then you'd pull your clutch cover off and inspect the clutch and see if there's any burnt plates. My guess is no, you don't have any burnt plates. It takes a lot to burn up KTM plates. My guess is you just need to bleed it, flush it with good fluid, and bleed it properly, which we have videos on in our Google Doc. You can get the link to those videos.
Awesome. Tegan M asks, how do you guys get those swing arms so polished up?
Okay, it was hard work, but we have Sano Metal Finishing in Marietta. They would do some blasting, like vapor blasting, but I think he would do a dry blast most of the time on those. So it's dry. It's like a beat. It's like sandblasting, but it's a lot different than a sand. It's more of a media. So he does a dry blast on that, gets all the cast areas, and then I take it to a guy named Geronimo, and Geronimo is a specialty in polishing. Now, unfortunately, if you live outside of Southern California, you can't really ship stuff back and forth to Geronimo. He's not set up like that. It's a drop by, that kind of thing. So in your local area, if you have anybody that does chroming or prep for chrome, anything like that, they will know a polisher, because anything that gets chromed, like a bumper for a car, it has to get polished. So ask any type that does chrome, and they can probably send you to a good polisher in your town, and you could take them your your parts. It's really, we got some pictures here. You can see how amazing it looks when these things are buffed off. It's pretty amazing. So
does Geronimo even have a phone? Because there's no way that guy's answering a phone.
he actually keeps an AirPod in now.
Oh,
some type of he's got something in his ear because he does answer now when I call sometimes. So typically I just go by and he's there 8 to 5, so it's pretty easy. So all right, so we in pretty deep now.
We're 20 minutes in right now.
Oh boy. All right, so let's go to our first product spotlight, right? So our first product spotlight today is from Fast Co, which is Cole Townsend, who was from Southern California here, and they're in Utah now. He's got a kid racing.
Hey, I used to live like literally a block from him in Long Beach.
I mean, you got a story for everything.
I know.
Okay, so but that's cool. So this is this torque wrench is like 25 years old range, and he just rebuilt it. They went and respec'd it. And when I first time I put it in there, it feels all nice now. So the nice thing with these spoke wrenches, you can hear it click right here. It's set at 48 inch-pounds. So that tells you how strong my thumb is, first of all, right? Right. Okay, so what's nice about this is you don't mess up and over tighten. People go, well, I want to have an adjustable one. An adjustable one's just going to cause you problems. Stick with this setting that they have and you're golden. You can use our code DBTV and it saves you like 10% on these. It's a really high-end tool, and you can pick which bits you want, which size, and if you call them, they'll tell you what sizes you need for your bike. But that's what's so nice is you have different bits you can put in for each size. The KTM bikes for years are all the same size front and rear, which is nice. If you have those, if you have a Honda, there'll be different size front and rear, like 6.2 and 6.8. And so anyway, it's a great tool. They also have a really good pattern. We have videos showing you how to do that, how to tighten your spokes. We're tightening the spoke. We hold 2 and we go to the next one. So it's like 3 away. We do 3 laps on a rim. And you do it. It works perfect. So we've had really good luck with that. So check out Fast Company on the spoke wrench, torque spoke wrench. So I've had a lot of guys ask about that torque spec and where it came from, and they worked with the guys at Honda back then and came up with that. And they've done some adjustments over the years, but it works really well on the small bikes, big bikes, and so forth. So that's what we like. So what do we got next? Don, you got something?
Yep. All right. David H. Is it true that VP T4 should be stored in the can and not in a plastic jug?
Okay, well, the answer is any fuel should be stored in a metal can, ideally. Any fuel. So whether it's pump fuel or anything should be ideally stored in metal, especially if you're going to store it for any period of time, more than a week or 2, it should be in a metal can. So ideally, yes, I would try to store it. It's going to last longer. You're not going to get any of the contaminants from the plastic, and it's going to keep its umph, right? So yeah, you definitely want to store it in metal if you can. It's not critical, and we don't do it. We try to have it in the metal can and we transfer it to a plastic can before we go ride. So it's usually not in there longer than a week or so in the plastic. And obviously it's in plastic in your bike when you're leaving it with a half a tank in there, and it sits for a couple weeks. So, but it's best to try to keep it in metal as long as you can.
Yep. So Josh B asks, hey, I was wondering what the part number on the Milwaukee screw gun you use is. I looked through all your videos, just couldn't find it to make sure I buy the right one. Thanks.
Okay. So what I found on that I learned about this from Jamie at Twisted, and Donnie was with me. Really cool tool, and I bought the bits from Harbor Freight for it, the 8 and 10 and 12, little bits that go in it, and we'll have some pictures of it right here. Oh, Donnie got one too?
Yeah.
Good job. You can't be better than me. So I found it on Amazon, and so if you go to our Google,
you sent me the link.
Yes, good job. So if you go to our Google Doc, we have it right in there, right?
Yeah,
Spence?
it's on there.
So I have the Amazon links, and so you can just click on those, and you can buy it from wherever you want. But I have 3 different links for the charger, the batteries, and the unit itself, and it was way cheaper than buying a whole kit. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't too bad. I think it was like $150 max, I think, with everything, maybe less.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Ryan T. You've posted about this a ton, but I can't seem to find it. What's the part number for the Honda carb hose you use when refurbishing an old bike?
Hey, that's ditto, right?
Yeah, it's ditto.
So we already answered that. Same one.
Yeah,
He wants that overflow hose, and that part number is right here on the screen. And then you can go to our Google Doc and see it. If you're listening to this, just go to our Google Doc later, right from our website or Linktree, and you can get that in part number. So we get that question a lot. Yep. Maybe I should memorize that part
you
number.
Should, yeah.
Okay.
It's only 11 digits long. You've definitely got that.
Right.
Adul says, hello, Jay. It's a pleasure to me. Yes. Recently, I bought a KTM 350 XCF, and I did some upgrades. Full system, Acropovic, Recluse, torque, Helio, impeller, all this stuff. Yeah. So he's trying to get the right ECU. The Get ECU looks very impressive, and you can also tune by the phone. And the Vortex has many good reviews. If you can please guide me on what Vortex, I will appreciate it.
Okay, so on those, I like to, we obviously, everybody knows I mentioned Jamie at Twisted a couple times a show or whatever, but the reason is he doesn't sell just a regular Vortex. All of his maps within that Vortex that you ask for, and you tell him what you're going to be riding, you tell him what fuel you're going to be using, all those maps have been dyno tested, and I can attest to that. They're not just guessed. We go into his shop regularly, and he's always on the dyno, and he has settings, and sometimes he'll have newer updated settings for your unit, so he stands behind it really good. I would suggest the Vortex. Some people like to get caught up in shiny things, like I can adjust my bike with my phone, but I can tell you there's one thing that I don't like doing when I go riding, and that's working on my bike. I like working on my bike in the shop, right? That's fine. But when you're out riding and everybody's waiting for you, or you're in between, we typically don't like working on bikes at the track. It's not that fun. I think working on bikes at the shop is fun.
You call that selfish?
Yes. Like, I want to ride. I come out here to ride. I didn't come out here to work on bikes. And the track's just getting worse and worse as you're working on it. It's going in your head. It's getting later. You're thinking of all the things you have to do. You're gonna go wash that bike and ruin it with the power washer. You're thinking about all that stuff, right? And you got to be done by 5 because your wife wants you to do this or that. So, who wants to work on bikes at the track? And if you have the good settings from Jamie at Twisted on that ECU, you don't have to adjust anything. Rarely do we ever even go adjust a clicker. It's so dang good between the 2 maps that are on the switch. That's all you ever need typically. And it really becomes 3 with their traction control map. So on the trail riding, sometimes I'll back her down to the slower map and traction control to get us in there, and it's amazing.
All right. Jamie F. Hi, I want more overrev and top end power for my 2014 YZ250. Would you recommend an FMF fatty pipe or gnarly pipe? I mainly ride long dirt roads and flat tracks at high speeds.
Yep. So
you got to make the okay.
So I can just picture this, and so typically FMF makes those pipes. The gnarly is meant for grunt, and that trail, that grunt, bottom to mid, typically with the gnarly. So we call it gnarly because you really get in there, and that's the one that is going to be that. The fatty or factory fatties are going to be more overall power, more top end. So that's what I would lean towards. If you're looking for that more top end, dirt road, wide open speed, I would go with the fatty for sure. And also some rear view mirrors, I'm guessing, on your helmet, so you can see the roost behind you, especially at sunset and so forth. I think you're going to want to look back and see that on those dirt roads.
Mount a GoPro to your rear fender pointing backwards.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
See the big roost you're throwing. Yeah. Lucas K says, "Hey Jay, just wondering if you know the factory spec for compression on a 1999 YZ250. Just checked my bike earlier, stone cold, and haven't started the bike in a week. It came in around 185 PSI on a fresh top and bottom end. Cheers, thanks for all the help."
Okay, so that sounds amazing. 185 sounds great. Anything, if you're getting over 170 to 200, and that's all going to depend on what's been modified, especially on an older bike. You don't know if that head's been cut, so forth. So if you're in that range, you're totally fine. If you're getting under 150, then you can have some room for concern. I do recommend, with 2-strokes, having a compression gauge. We have a good one. I'll have a picture of that right here. The Snap-on one's over 20 years old, and you can do that. Now on 4-strokes, I get a lot of guys ask about compression, and they check compression, but you can't really check compression on a 4-stroke. The way you check if a motor's worn on a 4-stroke is a leak down test, and that's a lot more involved. And I'm going to try to do a video on that in the future with Jamie once things calm down in Supercross here. I'll try to do a video showing how to do a leak down test, and that tells you what the percentage of leak down is in the motor, and if it's time to look at rebuilding it. And that's coming from the valves, from the piston rings, those types of things where there's some blow by and it's leaking.
For right now, we do have a video on our Google Doc when we did leak down on a 350 with David.
So, oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's on the Google Doc. Just type in.
And that one was like 3% or something, right?
It was
like
barely anything.
Yeah,
but we still rebuilt it anyways. But, there's a video on our Instagram of us doing it. We should do a nice one with Jamie and YouTube so that
I forgot we had that one. So that's on our Google Doc. Spencer's reminding me how great that thing is. Because you know who puts all those links in the Google Doc? Not me.
No.
Spencer.
Yeah.
So he puts them all in there, and he's complaining that it's too big, but
It's quite long.
It just keeps growing because we have good info there, and
like
so
20 pages.
You have to take your time to go through there, but it's broken into categories on there, so hopefully that helps find them. All right, what do we got next?
Boy, he has a full team of people.
Yeah, he
doing
does.
things.
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer. Oh, man. David from Australia. I love your content. I can now change tires easily thanks to your videos.
That's cool.
Can I ask you why you prefer tubes versus tubeless versus Moose? I was considering changing to tubeless for more traction in hard off-road situations. Thanks.
Okay, so and nothing against the tubeless guys. One of the downsides of the tubeless is when it does get a puncture, it becomes a hole. And the guys have to put plugs in their tires, put plugs in slime. It becomes a huge mess. And so it's just, to me, it's not really worth that. Also, most of the tires weren't designed to run at 2 and 3 and 4 PSI like these guys are running in these tubeless bikes, and they think that that's really good. It doesn't handle like it should. The tires weren't intended to be like that, and the bike wasn't intended to be like that way. So we like to run good heavy-duty tubes. We'll even double tube them and run them all powdered. If you're not racing, that's a great choice. And if you're not in really remote areas, that's a great choice. We get about one flat a year. And it's knock on wood. How long has it been, Spence? Gosh, over a year since we got in a flat between the two of us. You did that Green River last fall.
There was somebody else that got a flat recently with me, but they weren't a part of our thing. And I know they had a thin tube.
Okay. So
not with us.
You're right. So with just a regular heavy duty tube or double tubed, we get very few flats. Now,
it's funny how you're upset. Like, he had a thin tube. You had to mention.
I was like, well, why'd you get a flat? And
we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And they also didn't check the tire pressure that morning, as a lot of dudes just go out there and do, right? But
so he could have been at 5 or 6 PSI easily.
And then the thin tube on top of that is just not recipe for goodness.
So Mousses are great, and I do like Mousses, and they are more difficult to install. But we have a Rabiconda now that helps a ton. So a Moose is good, but it is more expensive. So what I tell guys, a Moose is most important if you are getting in conditions that you cannot afford to have a problem. Guys that go to Baja, most of those tour companies will not let you take anything but a Moose. No tubes, no tubeless, nothing. Just a Moose, because they want it. They don't want to have any problems. So, and you're very remote. They don't want to be dealing with flats out there. So I get that. If you're racing and can't afford, like racing a desert race, you can't afford a DNF, you can do Mousses there. So
what causes the flats the most? Is it pinching the side?
Pinch flats.
Pinch flats.
So pinch flats would be the most common.
And then does ripping the valve stem, is that?
Yeah, that doesn't happen too often.
If you're in Baja, I know some guys.
Yeah, just
But besides like that, a puncture, what is it's a pinch flat.
Pinch flats. And Spencer knows exactly where he got his. We were riding through there a few months ago, and a couple months ago, and he goes, "Hey, this is right where we got that flat." You were with us.
Yeah.
He mentioned it when we were talking on the Cardos.
Yeah.
There's this little ATV wide trail, really fun, fast, and he jumped down, and you can see where there's exposed rock. I came over it and missed it, and he goes, "That's where I hit that tire." So you can, when you're trail riding especially, you can pay attention and avoid straight edge rocks or really rough straight edges.
Yep. So Kevin H asks, this is prefaced with, he has a 2017 KTM 350 SXF. I'm using my friend's 23 KTM 300 SX forks because he got some cone forks. My question is, can the 17 AER forks receive the same mods as the new exact forks, or are they different when it comes to revalving, for air setup, or spring conversion? When Kiefer mentions the 6500 conversion, I wonder if it matters which set of forks I have to do them with.
Okay, so air fork conversions are a big topic, and fortunately, like I said, these XCFs, the 24, which I'm hoping to get one. Hopefully I can get one, comes with spring forks. So the conversions, the 6500 kit, putting it in your older forks would work just as fine as putting it in a 23. So a 17 or a 23, it wouldn't really matter as long as all the components in that 17 aren't nicked up or dinged up. You'd be totally fine to do it in those older forks. It'd be just fine. All right, what else we got?
So CYC. I mean,
should have a rider after that. CC rider.
Yeah,
or Sai.
Either one, right?
Okay.
Sai. I haven't had a bike in 15 years. I'm trying to get back into riding without breaking the bank. As I hope to get my son into it in a couple of years, I found a new 23 RMZ 250 for $5,000, $5,999. Right?
Yeah,
so
basically $6,000.
Yeah, at a dealer near me. They also have a used 20 YZ250F and a used KX 250F for the same price. I'm not sure how many hours are on the two used bikes. I have heard the Suzuki will get a pretty stiff suspension like stock. I know that the YZ and the KX will have more power, but that's not my major concern since I'll pretty much be learning to ride again. Any input is appreciated.
Okay, so on that question, I would have to say for $6,000, if I had a choice, if that was what I was looking at, I would probably choose the brand new Suzuki. It's a good bike for a kid and beginner, and you could back off the clickers and you could reduce the sag to get rid of some of that. The front forks are a bit stiff, but I think you could click it out and make it rideable, and you'd have something that's good and reliable. We've put tons of hours on that bike over the last couple years and no problems at all. I mean, really hard abuse. The older version that got updated like in 18 or 19 and in that range, and the older one did have some more durability issues. This one has had zero. It's really strong, and maybe because it is so heavy with the parts, they don't have any problem with parts. So
Jeff asks, any reason I shouldn't double tube my front tire?
Not at all. So if you're double tubing the rear and you have a thin front that you want to sacrifice and cut open to double tube the front, no problem at all, especially for trail riding. It does add some weight. We typically don't do it for motocross because it's just adding more weight, and we get very few front flats ever. All right, what's next, Donnie?
Niall from Ireland. Hi, mate. How are things? I'm heading over to the U.S. to visit some friends and go to A2. I also plan on hopefully to ride if possible. Is there anywhere I can rent bikes? Thanks.
Okay, so I get this question a lot. Now, as far as motocross bikes, there is a good guy, Luke Santos, Factory MX Vacations is his handle and all that. And I hooked this guy up with him, and I think he got all set for that race. And there's another guy coming in this weekend from somewhere as well. Italy.
Yeah.
Italy. He's coming in. We're going to ride with him Saturday. And we're meeting at Glen Helen and with a few other guys. So he's actually meeting out there, and we're going to be there. Spencer and I are going to go. So that's pretty cool. So you can rent motocross bikes. I haven't found a really good setup on trail bikes, and I'll work on that a little bit, see if I can find somebody. But in California, in Southern California, I get guys hit me up and they want to come trail ride, and then they're hitting me up and they're asking about, June through August and September, and I'm like, dude, we don't trail ride in California in those months. Like we go to mountains, we go up to Utah, Colorado, Idaho, we go to those places. There's no desert riding for us anyway. Now there are people that do it. We don't. We're fair weathered friends. We're getting out to the track early while it's wet and cool. So anyway, that's a great help on the motocross ones, and we get a lot of guys coming over from Europe and other places that want to ride, and that's a great place to do it.
Justin T is asking, hey Jay, I'm looking for a new bike and can't decide between the Yamaha YZ250FX or the KTM 250 XCFW. I mainly ride single track, enduro, and GNCC hare scrambles. I'm coming from a KTM 300 XCW and wanted to get into the four-stroke market.
Okay, so my answer is don't buy either. Because on the small four strokes, we have found there's very few people that are happy with the small four strokes, whether it's KTM or Yamaha, off-road on the trail. We tried it, and they're just not great. If you're riding just motocross or, say, GP races, I'd be fine with it, that kind of stuff. But if you're getting into the woods and serious trail riding, you're just not going to have that snap. So I say you go to a 350 four-stroke, or you go to that 300 two-stroke. Those are your two best options for trail riding, in my opinion. And racing and that stuff is that 300 that you had, or a 350. Wouldn't you agree, Spence?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because with that 250F, when we come up to something and it comes out of the blue and you want to just pop over, and I don't have great skills on that stuff, but I want to be able to just lift the front wheel a tiny bit. That 250F just doesn't have it, where the 350 or the 300 will. So that's why I choose that.
Yep.
All right. Next one.
Nice. That was it.
That's it.
Aren't you going to do your product?
Last product spotlight then is this rim. Okay, this isn't a brand new rim. This rim is from 1973. This is for my Husky build. This is an Akron rim, a stock rim that's 50 years old. Okay, this has been polished by Geronimo. Yep, he polished this thing up. It looks like brand new. This thing looked terrible to begin with. I don't have any before photos, but you got the idea. At 50 years old, so you can, and there's no buying buy this rim. And so we've started this project with my buddy Norm Francis on this old 73 we're building, and that's how good the rims come out on this thing. And then we're going to have Faster USA lace up the wheels when we get the hubs is Cerakoted and all fixed up. We're going to have Sano help us with the hubs, and then Faster USA will help us build these wheels up. So you can polish out a lot of things if you find a good polisher by you, and that'll help. So that's
some of these wheels. Some of these wheels, even if because you can't get them, even if they have little cracks and stuff, you should repair them.
Yes, and I just did that. So my buddy Dallas helped me weld, and he just welded the rear for this bike, and I'm getting that back today or tomorrow, and we're going to take that to Geronimo and get the rear polished out. And we did have a little crack, so when we took the spokes off, we put a ratcheting tie down around it to keep it in place, and Dallas welded it, got it nice, and Geronimo blended in. It shouldn't be visible, so we're hoping.
Awesome. All right, so I think that's it, right?
What do we got from you? You usually have
I got a question for both of you guys since Spencer's here new.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm super excited about, I guess it'll be today's race now.
Yeah.
So I want to know from each of you what you're most excited about for this race and this season.
Well, first of all, mine would be similar to yours. I'm hoping and hopeful that Tomac can go at that pace that he was, and can race with Jet and be out front and finish top threes, win some races. That's what I'm hoping for in the 450 class. And honestly, that all of them, I like to see them all do well. I love when there's different winners. Last year we had 6 or 7 different winners or more. It was a lot.
Yep.
I like seeing that. And no matter what anybody says, the field is pretty dang deep with so many past 450 winners. And you can even count Jet as a 450 winner, winning, the SMX that he just did. He's legit 450 rider. There's no way around it. So with him, and you got, Anderson and Webb and
Mookie.
Barsha. Mookie hasn't won a 450 race, but
no, but I'm saying that guy's on the cusp.
I mean, we got like 6 or 7 guys that have won 450 races.
Right.
Okay. That alone.
How many champions are in the field?
There's got to be 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Tomac, Sexton, Webb, and Anderson.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not missing anyone. But there's a lot, and then 250 champions on top of that. There's a few of those.
There's
so
quite a few. Yeah.
Yes, in there. So it's a great field. It should be fun. Sometimes I get overly excited, and it tends to be boring. But I don't want to. So I want to jinx it. But it should be great. My biggest hope is that everyone stays healthy, because that's what really hurts our sport. Our sport is very dangerous. So if we can keep all the guys healthy, that'd be the best thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, for me, it's the same thing but not so much. I mean, I think the 450 class is always entertaining to me because it's such a high, caliber skill level. Even if there's only 2 dudes that are going at that top pace, right? But watching just 2 dudes like lap almost everybody is still entertaining to me because it's just like, wow, look at those 2, right? But also for the 250 class, a lot of times I remember going. I think it was like 2 years ago, going to the Salt Lake round, and this was, I think it was at the end of COVID or whatever. But the Salt Lake round, like, everybody who was in the LCQ made it because of how few 250 riders there were. And it was kind of like, oh wow, like if I had just ridden the track, me who's never raced Supercross could have made it to a main event, which is like, that's so silly, right? But it's just like, I want the 250 class to stay, for East and West, to stay competitive the entire time, because sometimes we just don't see that, right? So
yeah, so hopefully it does. So that's it. We have one new segment for episode 3. We're going to show you a CD each week. An actual CD. Now, a lot of people don't know what these are, but they go in your disc player, and hopefully you have a disc player still. We found out that most of these work in your Blu-ray player as well.
Yeah, they'll work on almost any game console.
Game console as well. So that's good to know. This is from 1985 Dokken, and don't get confused by the girly clothes. That's still rocking. And so this is one of the best CDs from 1985. Just a great CD, and we would listen to music as a CD all in a row, and it just has a better flow to it when you listen to a whole album, as they say. And so that'll be our spotlight for today, is Dokken, Under Lock and Key. And my favorite songs on here is It's Not Love, Unchain the Night, In My Dreams, Don't Lie to Me. Oh, gosh, I mean, it's almost every one.
I liked when you listen to a CD so long that you always knew which song was next.
It happens all the time when I'm driving around and a song ends, and I'll tell Spencer what the next song
would have been.
Or
could
if we're
on the radio, usually,
if we're just listening to the radio, I go, hey, the next song is boom.
After that, yeah.
And I go, because I'm ready to start singing the next song. So nowadays, no one gets that, because you don't listen to an album in its entirety very often. And it would be on play. If I had a new album, it would be on play for a week or 3, non-stops. Every time you hopped in, you picked up at that same song, whether it was the tape deck or the CD, it would just pick up and you were just listening to it non-stop. So anyway, that's a great one for you guys that don't understand good music. And I get a lot of guys asking about our playlists and stuff. I did just get a Spotify, so I'm going to try to create a list on Spotify for everybody that wants some real music. So I wish we could play music on here. I'm going to write Dokken and Tesla and ask them if we can play their
License?
music. Yeah, we need to get some
Nice.
good music. So hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that cool stuff. And hopefully we'll see you out in the track or trail soon. We work with some great companies, and here's a list of those right now. Dunlop motorcycle tires, Wiseco piston, Vinco air shocks and dirt bike parts, FMF exhaust, Decal Works graphics, Pro X racing parts, Recluse clutch revolution, Motion Pro specialty motorcycle tools, Works connection, Uni filter, Klotz oil, Cometic gasket, MX plastics, JE pistons, Cardo systems, ODI bars and grips. And remember, if you shop Rocky Mountain, use our link from our site, Linktree, or link in description of the videos. Thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.